guys, Dave here for the Reptile Channel, HerpersTV. So right now I am standing in Chris Vogel's reptile room at Triple C Reptiles. He has some of the coolest leopard geckos. So we're going to check out to see what it takes to care for leopard geckos and breed leopard geckos and see some real leopard gecko eye candy. Here on Rainbow Mealworms presents the Reptile Channel HerpersTV Hobby Breeders. So Chris, it's common knowledge that leopard geckos are one of the most popular pet lizards in all of herpetoculture. So why did you get into leopard geckos in the first place?
I just heard that they were, probably the easiest ones to care for. And honestly, the biggest factor was my son. A couple years ago, he said, "Dad, I want a gecko." And I used to keep geckos and snakes back probably 10, 12 years ago. Good friend of mine, Kyle, from Kyle's Reptiles, got me into them. And so we went out to Twin City Reptiles to check out, see what they had, and ended up picking up our first gecko from them. And now we've grown to probably about 80 animals here, and I don't know when we're going to stop. Probably probably never. We'll probably have to double what we got. But
Why ever stop?
Right, exactly.
So one of the things that I love about leopard geckos is there's so many colors and different patterns and different morphs to them. And when I started working with leopard geckos way back in the day, all we had was normals. There wasn't any of these morphs here. So to see all these morphs kind of pop up and new ones pop up every year, this is why leopard geckos are so awesome. So what do we have here?
So this is an aberrant tangerine. So she's actually probably a little more than that, but this is what she was sold to me as. But I think she's got something else going with that much white on her tail. I love the solid striping down her back.
That is a good looking leopard gecko.
I'm big into the tangerine and the Tremper albino. Those are probably the two most common we have here.
So for people that might not know about leopard gecko mutations, what makes a tangerine? Is it a color morph? And you kind of walk us through what a tangerine is.
So my best example of a tangerine would be probably her. She's a super hypo tangerine. So you can see all the oranges that she has. This is one of the first babies we produced. She's a very, very orange, and she's got that solid striping too. So tangerine to me brings out more color than anything. So this is our breeder male. He is a Firefox jungle. So he is super hypo tangerine jungle. He's the father of all of our babies that we produced in the last 2 years. He's had about probably 30 babies. And he's just probably one of the most calm geckos we have here. He's getting a little busy now that we've had him out for about 10 minutes, but he is just a solid gecko. He's actually over 100 grams, which isn't very common, but he might have a little giant in him or something. That could be why he's getting so big. But as you can see, they're pretty calm, walking around. You just don't ever want to grab their tail, because that could cause them to drop their tail. It's one of their defense mechanisms.
So look at this guy's tail. That's an unregenerated tail. And this guy here has this bulbous tail. And that's what leopard gecko tails look like when they're regenerated. Not very aesthetic. All right, so you got a Jungle Max Snow here, which is one of my favorites. So can we take this guy out and take a look?
Absolutely. So she's a little flighty apparently, but there she is.
Wow, see, that is why these are my favorite leopard geckos.
Just the contrast between the yellow and orange and bluish whites, blue eyes.
That is a great looking gecko. All right, so I see you have a Super Snow Raptor here. Let's take a look at this one too.
She's another Garrett Meyer animal. Got two of them, this one and the last one that we just showed you. She's a little more sensitive to light with the albino. She's got the ruby eyes because she is a raptor. So again, for people that are watching that might not know the genetics, talk about the diagnostic features of what makes a raptor. So the raptor is the red-eyed Tremper albino along with patternless, and so you get the initials of red eye, the patternless with the P, and then Tremper albino for the T. So I know that there's a lot of ways to set leopard geckos up, whether you have it as a pet and have it in a 10-gallon, or whether you're a breeder and you have racks like you have. So tell us a little bit about, how you set your leopard geckos up and how you care for your leopard geckos here. So what we do is we keep all ours in racks. As you can see, we build all our own racks here at Triple C Reptiles. We have 4 things all the time for them. We always have water, a food dish with some worms in it, calcium, and a humid box, because they like to be warm and humid, and it helps big time with their sheds, and they actually do eat their own shed. So the humidity box, it helps them big time with shedding, and it also helps them, it's a hide, so it makes them feel more safe, and they feel more comfortable and everything when they're in there. We feed pretty much just mealworms, the occasional waxworm as a treat a couple times a month, So we probably spend between $250 and $350 a month just on mealworms from Rainbow Mealworms directly out in Compton. They're probably the best prices around, and by far the best product around.
So I know that one of the differences between keeping leopard geckos as opposed to other types of, lizards or snakes that don't need any supplements. What kind of supplements do you give your leopard geckos to make sure that, they're thriving and they're healthy and that sort of thing?
So all of our geckos will always have a calcium dish in there. That's the main supplement. You got to make sure that you get a calcium with D3. So that's the powder supplement for reptiles, specifically for these leopard geckos.
So one of the cool things about keeping leopard geckos is breeding them and creating living art by mixing genes and patterns and colors that we talked about. So talk a little bit about your personal experience and your personal methods of how you get leopard geckos to breed. So
what we do is we breed throughout the year. So we kind of range, because every female will actually start breeding the same time every year. Once you start breeding them. So a lot of breeders will just breed in the spring because it's easy. So we try to have babies throughout the whole year. So every couple months we have some females that will start breeding. And we'll just introduce the male, put it in with the female's tank so that it smells like the female. They'll breed for a few weeks and we'll take them out. You'll start to see that they'll start showing their eggs inside their bellies in the lower abdomen. And normally within like 6 weeks you'll get your first set of eggs. They'll normally lay 2 eggs every time. Some first timers will only lay 1 egg. But you'll get 2 eggs. They'll normally bury them down here, and what we do is put them in little incubator trays and then put them right inside of our incubator.
So now how old does a leopard gecko need to be before you can start breeding?
So a lot of people say that you want to be, over 35 grams. We actually wait to try to until you get over like 45 grams just to make sure they're big and healthy. You can see on their tails, if they don't have a big fat tail, they're probably not going to have healthy eggs. They're probably going to be infertile. So we try to, until they look at least this plump. That's kind of, the minimum that we'll start breeding. And if for some reason they haven't packed on the weight again until next breeding season, then we'll just give them the year off. They will start producing eggs, but it's not as hard on their body. So what we do is we'll right on top of the container, we'll take a piece of masking tape like you see on all of our racks. We'll label the male and the female, and then that'll be her cup for the whole breeding season. So if she has 12 eggs, all 12 eggs will eventually go into that same 8-egg tray. But before you get to your 4th clutch, the first one will already be hatching.
Gotcha.
And pretty much every 2 weeks you'll get eggs, and every 2 weeks you'll get babies that are hatching.
That's pretty awesome. So 1 deli cup for each female. That's pretty streamlined.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple.
And then where do you incubate? Is this your incubator here?
So this is our leopard gecko incubator. So it's not running right now because we don't have any currently breeding. But so what we do is we just have a heat tape in the back. We have a little fan right here to move the air around, and a thermostat on the side.
And what do you incubate at?
So I incubate at about 79 degrees, 79 to 80, to try to get females. So that's an interesting fact about leopard geckos too, is that you will actually be able to control the sex of your babies by what temperature you incubate at. So the low 80s down to like 78 will be all females. If you go up towards 90, like 85 plus, up to 90 degrees, you'll get all males.
All right, so you told me that in these bottom racks here are last year's babies?
Well, they're actually this summer. They're about mid-year, so they were 6/29 hatch date and 6/9 hatch date were these last 4 that we have left.
Okay, so all these were hatched in like June?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Let's take a look at some of these guys here and see how big they get. What is it now, November? So
yep.
4 months old?
Yep, so they're just about 4 months old.
All right, but these are pretty big for 4 months old.
Correct. Most, like if you go to a pet store, they were going to be probably half that size at that age. So we feed ours very well. They're always going to have some mealworms in the dish, and they're going to get waxworms a couple times a month as a treat. The mealworms are what gives them all the nutrition that they need. You can feed them crickets, but we just choose not to. They're a lot more work. They stink, they make noise.
So I bet that it takes you a long time to clean all these cages. Do you have a little helper like this guy right here?
We do. Last night we probably spent, what do you think, 2 hours down here cleaning just the geckos? Probably 2 hours at least last night just cleaning the geckos.
And so you helped?
Yep. Put on his little rubber gloves, and what did you do? Do you remember what you did? You cleaned out all the worm dishes? Yep.
All right, guys, so there it is for the Leopard Gecko episode that I know a lot of you guys have requested, so it was really cool to be down here and see Chris's collection and see what he's doing as a hobby breeder. And like I said, you know, you don't need to be like this huge breeder in order to get noticed. Just do it because you love it, and the rest will follow. So anyway, guys, if you like this video, give it a like, comment below, and let me know what kind of leopard geckos you guys have and what kind of leopard geckos you guys want to get. And also subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss an episode of the Reptile Channel HerpersTV.